Coming to you live from the offices of Chapter One Films in Charlotte, North Carolina, this is the 4D Podcast with your hosts, Nathanael Levinson, Greg Prinz, and Liam Maxwell. A new dimension in entertainment. This is the 4D Podcast.
I'm a professional. There we go.
We like Nathaniel a lot,
Yeah.
but sometimes we
someone
struggle
give
with
me
things.
shoddy, not working equipment.
We can blame Jakob for that, honestly. We can just put it all on Jakob. You know,
I keep sending him a list of things we need. One's an air conditioner. It gets really hot in here, and he's just like, "Yeah, I hope you burn, white boy." I'm like, this guy.
he hates us. That's our problem is that he hates us.
Yeah,
is,
but
is
again,
the real problem. of
we
the
really
show.
we really should have had a lawyer check those contracts because he does own our souls. So unlucky.
Bad on our part, honestly.
Yeah, that's a crucial error.
But we're back, ladies and gentlemen, and we're really excited. We got a great show. We watched what would you? We
It
watched
was
a movie.
wild ride.
We watched a movie.
I went into it not knowing what was going to happen. I knew it was like an action movie with Denzel Washington, and that was it. And boy, it took us all over the place.
Well, we got somebody to thank here for us. Why don't you introduce us to our guest, Nathaniel?
Yes, with us today is Andrew Backerich,
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Blood Youth Director at Stonebridge Church. Do you
He's
want us
the
to say that?
You can say whatever you want.
We can't take it away, so I don't know exactly why
It's
he
out
asked
there.
after
Hit the
he
bleep
said
button,
it.
quick. Hit the bleep
Address,
button.
my social security number, anything else you guys want to throw out there. That's all up for grabs.
So yes, fellow movie buff. And we asked you if you wanted to come on the cast. You said yes. What movie do you want to talk about? Well, there's one movie that's been occupying my thoughts in the last 6 months. And about 10 minutes into it, we're like, we understand why he picked this movie.
The man says Ricochet.
Ricochet.
I want to watch
I
Ricochet.
want to watch Ricochet with Denzel Washington.
I had never even heard of it. I am a big movie guy. I've seen so many Denzel Washington movies. I've watched a lot of action movies. I saw it on some list on Letterboxd, and I was like, it's on Max. I'm going to check it out. And it was a great Saturday afternoon.
You were never the same afterwards.
No, I got done with that movie, and I turned to my wife, and I was like, I wish you had watched that movie with me. And we were like driving in the car somewhere later, and all I wanted to do with her and our two friends that were in the car was run down the plot of this movie, and they got so tired of it. They got so tired of me talking about this movie. They checked out like 3 minutes into it, and I kept going for like an additional 8 to 10 minutes about the movie because I had to talk about it with somebody.
It's probably one of those that you kind of have to see because once you get in the point where you're like, and then he was taping newspapers around himself and pretending he was a knight and stabbing another. Wait,
and then there was the whole prison gladiator fight with weight bars that they had chiseled down into broadswords.
and then they made armor out of phone books and duct tape.
Exactly.
Oh
You just at every turn, you don't know what this movie is going to do next, and it's exciting.
It really is phenomenal.
It was wild.
It was a wild movie. So for audience at home, we watched a movie called Ricochet, Denzel Washington, 1991, I believe.
Yes, 91.
Definitely a wild ride, and I'm gonna make Andrew have to do with his friends what he did. Do again what he did with his friends, and give us a short kind of synopsis. Bring us up to speed before we kind of dig into the movie.
Give us the Wikipedia blurb.
Give us the cliff notes, just the broad strokes.
Abstract.
Yeah,
So-
don't want to get super detailed.
Movie starts in 1984. Movie starts in 1984, which honestly is something, if you don't pay attention to the movie, it like the first 10 minutes of the movie take place over like 7 years, and you like miss out on that. You're just like, wow,
the mustache
Denzel
thing.
Washington can grow a mustache really fast.
I pointed it out. So like all of a sudden it cuts and he's got a mustache, and I'm like, I miss when movies could just give a guy a mustache and you knew. You're like, it's fast forwarded like 5.
Just to let you know that time had passed.
Time has passed. I understand several years have passed at this point. He has a mustache.
A wise man.
All right, so the movie takes place in L.A. It starts with a young Denzel Washington who is a beat cop who is going to law school at night, and he runs into Earl Talbot Blake, who's played by John Lithgow, and he basically foils his attempt to become like top dog in like the mob there, or
It's unclear. It's completely unclear. They
we
don't
don't
actually
know
say
what his association is or anything like that. All we know is that he
clearly
kills
a bad guy.
He's a
kills
hitman.
these guys. He kills these guys, and Nick Stiles, who is Denzel Washington's character, foils the plot, and he goes to jail. And this basically turns Denzel into like a superstar. And so he is just like a skyrocket over the next 7 years. He goes to law school. He becomes an ADA, an assistant district attorney, gets a mustache, gets married, has 2 kids and all this stuff. All the while, John Lithgow is in prison, and he is just basically spending the next 7 years plotting his revenge. And I don't want to go too far into the revenge just yet, but they finally meet after 7 years. There's a prison breakout. He gets out of prison, and he basically just destroys Denzel Washington's life in the most insane ways.
Ruins.
It's absolutely heinous. It's just like complete gaslighting.
Pure
it's
evil.
It's gnarly.
Like
There's like uncomfortable to
nothing
watch.
likable about John Lithgow in this movie, and it's so funny because this feels like such like. There are so many moments in this where I'm like, is this just like a Die Hard knockoff? Like, did they just pull scenes from Die Hard? And I actually think it takes place in the same universe as Die Hard because the reporter lady is the same lady from Die Hard.
Really?
And it's the same character. Yeah, it's Robert Zemeckis' ex-wife, and she plays the exact same character in Die Hard. And so I don't know if they take place in the same universe. I don't know if they just reuse the character or something like that.
That would be awesome.
Anyway, it all comes to this
It takes place in the
insane...
same universe as Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Yeah, maybe.
That would explain the
Back to
wackiness
the
at
future.
the end.
Yeah. So anyway, so it all culminates in like a big like standoff, top of a tower, just like Die Hard.
Quite literally
And at the
top of a
very
tower.
end, they do the exact same thing with Die Hard, where like they show up in a limo and they put a blanket around him, and he walks out. And the first thing he does is he walks up to the reporter and like turns off the camera, just like John McClane's wife does, like Bonnie Bedelia does.
When did Die Hard come out?
Die Hard. This was before Die Hard. This was after Die Hard. Die Hard came out like 87, 88.
I can look it up.
I don't know. I can't remember. But it is a Joel Silver movie, so same producer.
It's possible it's in the same universe.
That would be wild.
It was originally... So I was doing some research on it, and it
Die Hard
was...
came out in 88.
88.
Yeah.
It was originally written as a Dirty Harry movie. And...
Like it was meant to be starring.
It was
Clint Eastwood?
meant to be another. I think it was going to be either this one or Death Proof. I think this might have been the original Death Proof. I don't know. Anyway, Deadpool. Sorry, not Death Proof. Deadpool.
Deadpool.
So anyway, yeah, the Deadpool. That's what the like 5th Dirty Harry movie is.
I didn't
called,
realize
think.
there were that many
There's
of them. That's
so
number
many
2.
Harry Callahan movies, but it was originally
Watch those.
going
that
to
might be our next series.
It was originally going to be a Dirty Harry movie, and they said it was too brutal for Dirty Harry.
Yeah, that makes sense.
This movie was
super
like
uncomfortable.
it's
for
not for
the vast majority
people
of the movie.
that don't like movies that make you uncomfortable. How do I
was,
put it?
like,
it will
it
strain
was-
itself to make you feel very uncomfortable.
And it was funny 'cause-
whether it's kids or naked people or blood or
Yeah, there's a lot of wild stuff in there, but it was interesting because we watched Con Air recently,
Yeah.
and that has a similar level of insanity as to like the plot, but this one was
Dealing with-
nothing funny, nothing
Yeah.
hilarious, and then
Well,
like the
they-
last
they
10 minutes of the
definitely
movie
try.
Just
for the
turn into
I was
absolute
honestly like
Roadrunner,
it was like
Wile E.
a clown show.
Coyote.
It's exactly what happened. It flipped on a dime. Like
Yeah.
it was, I was honestly like, he's just gonna ruin Denzel's life, and then we're gonna see Denzel kill himself or something like that, and like just gonna have this really dour ending. And I was like, if that happens, I will despise this movie. I hate endings like that. But like the last 10 minutes of this 2-hour movie, it just goes complete 180 the other way and just wraps everything up. Just like, all right, shoot, we have all these pop things. Done, and just ends the movie. You're like,
The
what?
turn
Like, you
in
get
this
whiplash.
movie is wild because they spend the majority of the movie setting up the revenge actually really well. As heinous as it is, I mean, it is set up
meticulous.
Every plot, every detail of this plan is put together, and it is foiled in a matter of seconds by Denzel, by a shoddy plan that is thrown together when Denzel is watching Caged Heat on White Heat, the James Cagney movie, and goes, "I'm gonna stand on top of a building and scream, 'Mama, I made it!'" And I guess that's where he decides that he's gonna do it.
I feel like the scene where so obviously the movie progresses like Andrew explained, but at the point where John Lithgow is in jail and he's plotting, quote, like he gets in jail and he immediately starts punching people and like beating people up, and you're like, oh, okay, like he can do whatever he wants. And then there is a scene where the prisoners, like, whatever.
That's my biggest thing with this movie. I'm sorry to interrupt, but
no, absolutely.
Prison,
dude, this prison.
What
it's like,
is just first of
like a
all, the
Thunderdome.
biggest thing that I was thinking about when they are having that gladiator battle is the logistics behind it.
Oh, there's so many things to think
there's
about.
like 30 guys at night in the cafeteria of the prison, and they have just total freedom to host like the guy who directed is also directed Highlander, and so he's got this like broadsword battle that happens in there, and I'm just like, where are the guards?
The inmates put freaking
phone
books around their bodies
as like armor.
Like they turn them into armor and helmets, and then they have big sharpened
barbells that they sharpen into swords.
And he's fighting Jesse Ventura.
They're clinging the swords together in a gladiator style
Jesse
fight.
Ventura.
And then he just stabs the guy.
To be fair, I think most of those guys were like KKK white power guys, and so maybe the guards are
They're
like,
all like Aryan
hopefully they all
Brotherhood
kill
guys.
each other.
Well, the thing for me though is like until that point the movie hadn't been absurd.
And
You're
the
like,
movie also,
okay, like
the movie
here we
also
go. We got
like
cops
didn't
and
explain
bad
like,
guys.
oh, you're in this prison with all these KKK guys. It was like them, like they had an issue with him for some reason, because like John Lithgow
The biggest
was whiter
issue
than they
was that
were.
he stepped into the prison, and the very first thing he does is just beats the crap out of Jesse Ventura, and then proceed. I love how this movie, it lingers. It doesn't just like do something and then cut to the next thing like a regular movie does, like a regular like 90s action movie does, where it's like,
let's have it throw a bunch of stuff on the guy.
they keep beating the dead horse because he stinking knocks this guy out and then takes everything off of his shelves, and then he goes over to the wall, takes a picture off of it, and chucks it at him on the ground,
and then puts his
like,
picture up.
There's like an additional 30 seconds of just John Lithgow walking around going, "This place is mine. This is mine now."
And so for me, it's like when you get the gladiator scene was the first time that I was like, oh, it's gonna be this is
Denzel getting down,
this is a
like stripping
movie.
down to his underwear to foil John
But
Lithgow.
that was the
Didn't
point
do that
at
for
which
you.
I was like, I understand why Andrew wants to talk about this movie. So,
But like
So,
you've
again-
seen that in some cop movement, right? Like, what's the?
I've never seen a cop undress
what's
in
the-
order to distract a.
That's exactly what's the one that we just watched the series with sweaty.
Lethal Weapon.
Lethal Weapon. He does that exact same thing in Lethal Weapon. He strips down, he jumps in front of the guy, and Lethal Weapon's kind of goofy, right? Like, and I was like, okay, that's a goofy cop vibe. You know, he takes his
This is
pants
also
off,
Joel
and then
Silver.
he shoots him.
Okay. He's
but
the same
then
twice.
the gladiator scene was like, oh, this movie is clearly in like a delusional world where I'm like, what universe does this prison exist? Because my mindset was like, maybe back then we just didn't people just didn't have enough knowledge about what prisons were like, and they're like, I could see this. Maybe this is really how bad prisons are. And I'm like,
Maybe
I don't really
maybe a
think-
prison in like, I don't know, freaking Afghanistan or I don't know. Like,
I don't know. I'm perplexed at every point with the prison.
it's just
The
it's
prison
so
makes-
bizarre. The
the
prison makes
prison-
absolutely no
and
sense.
if we actually want to talk about the breakout scene,
breakout
where like
scene-
all of the guards are just casually doing work with power tools.
Yes, all the
No,
prisoners
sorry, not
have
the guards,
like
the
all
prisoners.
the
The
bandsaws
prisoners.
and drills, and so John Lithgow like snaps his fingers, and they all just turn and go whoop, and just kill everyone immediately.
Well,
And
it
you're like,
starts with him. They don't even explain what his like medium of killing this one guy is.
Yeah,
he just has like
he
a,
just has like
he's
a
like a
ball.
ball,
He has like a
pin gun from like World War
Where?
II
And
or something.
where did he
Something
get
you would
that?
see
They
from
didn't
like a
explain where he
James.
got that.
Something you would see like from a James Bond movie that instantly kills. It's like a silenced pin.
He clicks his pin and it shoots a bullet through the guy's head.
through the guy's
Like,
head.
It's
It kills him
it's
instantly,
wild.
and then he gets all of his cronies out in the hall to just destroy people with power tools. That's the other thing about this movie. Like, some of the violence is like really like kind of tame and all that kind of stuff, but then there are these just
Those
random
times.
parts where they were like even in the
just,
beginning, like
slicing people up.
even in the beginning, like where John Lithgow is like going up against these mob guys, he shoots 3 guys, and it's like you don't even see that much blood, and then the fourth guy he shoots,
like explodes.
His chest like just explodes, like it's like the chest burster from Alien.
Yeah,
and I'm just like,
it was like a
wild.
cake being exploded and just splattering everywhere. It was the guy's chest.
Yeah, the violence. Yeah, right. The violence level was all
over the place.
Yeah,
it's just hills and valleys the whole time.
It definitely felt like it felt at times like a Weird Al Yankovic music video where like all of a sudden it's like, we're going to put this drill into this guy's head. It's like, and blood's just squirting everywhere. And you're sitting there going, okay, all right, well, I guess we'll just get to the next scene here. Like, why is that happening though?
And there was like a bunch of stuff that they never explained, like the pen gun. Where did that come from?
Yeah.
Completely unclear. Like Ivan Drago. Like, tell me that one Aryan guy they escaped with didn't look like Ivan Drago.
Yes.
No one ever says, oh, yeah, when he escaped, there was this other guy that we didn't find his body. Like, we're looking for Ivan Drago now. Maybe he's the one who's doing all these things, right? He just gets off scot-free. Like, they knew he escaped.
There's definitely a lot of holes.
Yeah. And who is this? His little sidekick buddy?
He is the most. His character is the most like confounding.
Yeah, there's definitely
all the characters because throughout from the very beginning, he is so like he is just like battering him with insults constantly and just like telling him what an idiot he is, and all this guy does for an hour and 40 minutes of the movie is hype this guy up and just talk about how great he is and talk about what he's gonna do.
But then and John Lithgow was like, I don't like these Aryan KKK guys. I'm just a hitman. But his crony guy was like, you're the white power. You're like, you're the whitest guy ever. You're the best white man ever. Like, wait, John Lithgow doesn't care about that. Why? I don't get it.
He's literally he makes no sense. Yeah. He's just there. I don't even know. And his voice is just always the same, no matter what, until the very end when he's yelling. But even then, it's in the same tone.
And then at the end when he's yelling, you're like, wait, why is he all of a sudden realize that he's made a mistake?
This was the straw that broke the camel's back.
What was? I'm sitting there like, oh, he's tied up. Oh, Ice-T must have done something or revealed that.
No, sorry, we didn't mention that Ice-T was in this movie
with long hair.
I mean, that was the part that like when I was telling Greg before that when I sat down to watch the movie, like the opening shot is just like an awesome young Denzel Washington. You're like, yes, I love him. He's so great. And then immediately cuts to a very long-haired Ice-T playing basketball with him. And I was like, oh my goodness, that's insane. There's Ice-T, like 90s rapper, like gangster rapper Ice-T coming out to like, it's just with that hair, it just blows my mind. He was like running around with that. So
Ice-T's character he's in the very beginning, he's in the middle, and then he's in the end.
Yeah.
And he's non-existent for the rest of the film. He's Nick Stiles' like childhood friend. They grew up together, but he goes into like gang life.
He becomes a gangbanger, and Nick becomes
like in the first
cop.
scene, they're playing basketball and they're going away, and Nick sees them. He's a cop at this time, and Nick sees them hotwiring a car, and he's like, all right, we can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
And so then you don't see him again until he becomes the DA, like 7 years later, and he goes and visits. I can't even remember what his name is.
Odessa.
He goes and visits him in his like,
and he's like
crack house,
actively making.
Yeah,
crack.
he's like
There's
actively
like
making
a whole
crack.
like Bill Nye the Science Guy like chemistry set hanging out in his apartment.
Yeah, and he's like, look, I'm gonna look the other way as long as you don't, because they're building some like something for the youths. And he's like, you stay out of there. I'll look the other way on this.
The tower at the end, those like old decrepit like metal structures, like the whole like conceit of like Nick's like second act is that he is trying to build a community center there, and that he's been raising this money. And so, but even that, if you're not like, it's such like a minor detail that you like miss it if you're not paying attention. That like he's all of these things, but also he wants to build a community center at this place.
It definitely seemed like the movie grazed over some pretty important plot devices, and then they were like, let's get back to John Lithgow being creepy.
John Lithgow, Gary Busey, because I was getting huge Gary Busey vibes from this movie. I don't know why.
Mr. Joshua.
but so John Lithgow is some hitman, and he pulls up with the putz. Kim. Idiot, dumbass, and
some kid who's obsessed with him.
Some kid who's it's some drug deal going down, and one of the people in the drug deal knows John Lithgow is coming to kill everyone.
Yes,
but then John Lithgow turns around and kills him too with a super gory gun.
Yeah, yes,
and then he's like, "This is my."
Pulls out the blood gun.
They're both like, "This is my way to the big leagues." Totally unclear how. And of course, like he makes a point. They go up, and so that the kid was part of this one of the drug dealers' gangs because he has a key to the place, and so he goes to unlock with the key. And I keep wanting to say Gary Busey. John Lithgow is like, no.
They'll know it's an inside job.
And
he sticks the key in the kid's mouth
you're gonna kill
and he berates
everyone.
him with insults.
They're just going to be like, oh, everyone is dead.
Yeah.
So it's completely unclear what his plan was. And then, like, after he gets caught, he gets busted and shot in the knee because, again, Denzel, like, strips down. So he takes a girl hostage. She, like, comes out of the porta potty.
Out of the porta potty,
and, like, runs
like,
towards him.
trotting. Like, she just, like,
like,
runs. She can see everything when she comes out of the porta. That is, like, the part that, like, me and my wife, when we watched this movie, we were both just like, what?
Yeah,
what did she
bad
do?
policing.
She just like gallops into John Lithgow's arms, basically, to be like taken hostage.
And then John Lithgow has a very tasteful line,
Yeah.
which they repeat in his flashback. I was like, really? That's the line you thought we need to hear again?
That we heard that like 5 minutes later
yeah,
we have to
we
hear
have
the
to hear it
whole
again.
like see it's like
awful.
It's like every Rocky movie when you have to watch like the last like 7 minutes of the previous Rocky movie before you get to the new one.
But so he takes her hostage, and so Nick starts undressing, like it's like, oh, I'm gonna show you I have nothing, I have no weapons, I
just
got
me
nothing
and
on
you.
me.
It's
I'm
just
gonna,
me
like,
and you.
trade, take me hostage, let her go. And so he strips down to his underwear, and Earl lets the girl go, but then Nick pulls out a gun, like a little two bullet thing,
A Beretta.
a little Beretta that he has in his jockstrap, and shoots him in the knee. And he like flips over this hot dog stand, which, wow, the stunt doubles are like the most noticeable stunt doubles that I've ever seen in a movie.
Stunt doubles are like they put zero effort.
Yeah,
into
it's like
they're
not
like, hey,
even,
you're a big guy, just go jump
I would
over
hesitate
that
to say
hot
like
dog
some of these
stand.
people are not the same nationality. Like they don't look a thing like the person. Like the first thing they do in the basketball game is Denzel goes up for a dunk. And it like hovers on the dunk, and the guy's like putting his face away from the camera, but he's like 6 feet wide. Like Denzel, Denzel's in really good shape in this movie, but he's not like jacked out of his mind. This dude was like a professional. He looked like one of the dudes that beat up Jussie Smollett.
Yeah, chat. If you're watching at home,
he looked like this massive bodybuilder.
chat. Just fast forward to the first
5 minutes.
2 minutes of the movie and watch Denzel Washington dunk and see the stunt double. You'll thank us for it. Just go and do that while you're watching.
Yeah,
on
and
your
then
phone.
John Lithgow like gets flipped over a hot dog cart, and you're like, that's clearly not John Lithgow.
Yeah.
So there is this scene where he's obviously in jail.
Yeah, he's
got
in
the
jail, and so
bullet
he's like
wound,
in a
and
hospital bed.
He
He's like
asks for
in a coma.
2 really, really heavy books and tapes them to his foot, and then he like, what does he do? Why does he do that?
I think his knee was like out of joint.
It was like locked in place because of where he got shot. And so what he's trying to
they
do
also don't
is
explain that.
Yeah, no.
So he takes War and Peace
And the Bible.
and he like where he gets that medical tape. I have no idea.
He just has medical
and he
tape.
just wraps it around his foot and then leans over the bed, like goes over to the side of the bed so his knee will bend.
Okay, that's the idea.
You feel like it's gonna be the beginning of a training montage for him?
no, he's fine after
but
that.
he's just like after that he can walk like totally fine, but he like screams because I mean obviously he's in like an immense amount of pain.
Yeah, but so he's lying like comatose in this bed, and the librarian like comes over to him and says, "Young man, don't you have anything to live for?" And on the TV, it's showing Nick Stiles getting all these accolades,
Yeah.
and he's like, "Oh, I do have something to live for, my revenge." So he spends his whole time planning his revenge, builds this really weird collage where he's like prints out a bunch of pictures, including a bunch of pictures of like naked women, and then pastes Nick Stiles' head on it, so you get to see a lot of taint. And they keep like holding on the taint. I'm like, guys, we don't want to see the taint. Please stop.
There is like so much unnecessary
So much
close-up
weird
shot of
gratuitous nudity
pornography
in this movie.
in this movie that is just so.
Like
I mean, it kind of works by the end, but at the beginning
one
you're like,
part
what's
where
going
they're using
on?
the hooker to gaslight him, that nudity, I guess, it was really gratuitous. But you understand why it's there. But then like the random strip club, what the hell was that?
That
was like
bar, like I have heard. So I watched this twice before this, and I like the bar, where he like comes to realize that Nick's gonna jump off that building, and he's like, my plan will be foiled. I was like, what? I didn't even noticed it the first time I watched it, but I was like looking at it closer. So I was like, what is this place? This is like that scene in like Babylon where they go under L.A. and they're like basically in hell.
It felt like a
so
scene out of
weird.
the Matrix where they go into like the futuristic bars and like like the people are all in weird clothing and there's just people in chains and it's just super. It's supposed to just be super like kind of cyberpunk.
It reminds me of like the Deadpool scene where they just walk into the strip club.
Yeah.
But this was like there was like a normal looking stripper person, and then next to her like a 6'5" double plus size stripper, and you're like,
gigantic.
and then there was like a midget on a small person on the bar, and it was just like the wildest bar ever. Like, who's this catering to, and why are they there?
Yeah,
what are they doing here?
It didn't make any sense. I don't know what that place was.
So chat is saying that don't we all change once we flip over hot dog stands? And that's just what happened to his character. So
that's science can't explain.
Maybe
certain
that's
mysteries.
Is that the deeper message of the movie?
That's
when
one
you
of them.
fall over a hot dog stand, you
John
change
Lithgow.
from John Lithgow to
you turn into
John Lithgow.
That's good advice to relish.
Yeah, really think on that one. But yes, in my opinion, the prison and the bar were like, it's as if he handed the script off to somebody else. He's like, okay, you write this part. And he's like, oh boy.
Yeah.
And he's like, they've got swords and armor. And then he gets it back and he's like, what am I gonna do with this? He's like, we'll just turn them into weight bars and other things. And then the bar that you go to, why are all these things at that bar that are just so out of place and nobody's addressing them? Lithgow's just sitting there like
They just walk in. No one talks to them. No one looks at them. They just walk in, sit down at the bar, and have a conversation.
Well, Kim, his little sidekick, knows the bartender.
Yeah.
He's like, Johnny, 2 shots of whiskey over here. And it's like, how often are you guys coming here? Like, didn't you just break out of prison? And like, I mean, were you in?
Yeah, it's unclear like how he gets his like $10,000 too, or any of the money that he has.
He mentions that he has money and connections on the outside. They never show any of that.
No,
right.
the $10,000 they
they send
when
to,
they send to him. Yeah.
Okay, so that's like the first portion of the movie is Nick Stiles arrests, foils Earl, gets elevated. Earl starts doing his crazy plan and then escapes prison. And he frames. The only people that get out of the prison escape alive are him, Kim, and Ivan Drago.
I don't remember his name.
He looks exactly like Ivan Drago. He's got like the hide hair. And so what he does is he had Kim switch the dental records for them. Then he shoots. He kills Ivan Drago, shoots him in the leg, and then so they like put a bomb in the truck. And they're pushing the truck off the cliff, but it explodes.
It explodes like on the edge,
like way before they finish pushing it off. Like they're
just,
dead.
Like, incredible
and it's not
timing.
Like the front part blows. Like the whole car explodes. Like they're still having to push this car, so they did not time that well. But
like, how fast would a body have to disintegrate in that explosion to be like unrecognizable? Because it only had a second and a half before it explodes and then hits the water, and then it's like, the body's disintegrated into what, powder? Like,
I mean, human flesh can burn fairly fast, enough to disfigure it for sure. And they'd be like, oh, we have to check dental records, and because it was what the 80s.
It was 84. Well,
So
no, this was
evidence-
1991.
Right,
at this point.
but in the movie, what time?
In the movie, it's 1991
Yeah,
when
They
when
had
it gets out.
DNA evidence at this point.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how much they used it for, because they did still check dental records primarily.
Yeah.
But they're like, yep, that was Earl, he dead. But again, no one talks about Ivan Drago. Like, okay, what? No one talks about him also escaping prison. They're just like, yeah, Earl escaped and he died.
Yeah.
And no one talks about Kim or the other guy. Kim is also like walking around. They're like, oh, Kim, the guy.
Well, Kim got released. Kim got released early because remember he's in the thing going, I'll be there for you when you're out, man. I'll be there. And he's like, and John Lithgow's not talking to him because he's standing there using, I don't know what Xerox function this is, where you just make
like
a copy
zooms in
of
and
the
zooms in
same
and zooms
picture
in.
over and over again, but it's zooming in until it's just like on Denzel Washington's eye.
and there was so many funny camera moments where I forget I forget the scene where it zooms in on
just
Lithgow's
zooms
mouth.
on John Lithgow's face and like,
and he says
no
another line. He's like, "Yes, that's what I mean." It's zooms right in there, and I'm like,
it was.
"Whoa!"
I think it was okay. So after he escapes, then we get to the kind of
his plot,
the first third to
his
almost the
plan
last
is-
5 minutes of the movie where he starts taking Nick Stiles apart, and this part of the movie is brutal.
Yeah.
So he basically just starts gaslighting Nick Stiles.
Well, the whole thing starts
Yeah.
with Nick Stiles. He wants to raise money for this community center. His father is a pastor, and so they are doing this fundraiser at his church.
It definitely like is trying to emphasize that he's like a well-respected.
Yes.
Everybody looks at him like a political figure.
He's a good
at this
guy.
point.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's like to the point where some of his political friends are like, hey, you should be going higher than this. You could be mayor. We could get you to Washington. Like,
And he's also slowly realizing that it's taking him away from his wife and his kids, and it emphasizes that a bit as well. Sorry. Go on.
No, you're good.
So no, but I mean, so you kind of realize that he's at that point, and then it cuts over to Lithgow's his like master plan of gaslighting him.
Yeah.
And this plan gets brutal, but also at the same point, you're like, why not just like take his kids? So he sneaks into Nick's house
While they're at the fundraiser.
Posing as the electrician because he cuts the power, and he just like has this fun night with like
the kids and the babysitter.
With like the kids and the babysitter.
Which, by the way, as a father, worst babysitter in the entire world.
Right. The babysitter, like, so this guy comes in and you're thinking, oh, he's going to pose as the electrician and do something. And in the next scene, he's like blowing out candles and talking to them about
He brings in like
stuff.
a little Debbie like snack cake with candles in it, and the little girl's like,
what?
"Is it really our birthday, Mr. Power Man?"
And I'm like, why would he know that? Why would you not know that? And why would your babysitter
and the
not know that?
babysitter just loving it,
Dude, the babysitter
she is having the best
is
time.
like-
She's giving him compliments.
She's like, this is the greatest power
She's
guy
like-
ever.
She's like doing all this stuff. Like she is so into this guy.
So weird. So, but anyways, he does that, and he doesn't actually do anything to the girls. Thank goodness. He keeps looking, and the music's like all horror-ish, and he keeps thinking he's going to do something
Sylvester
horrible.
score.
And but he doesn't. But what he does do is, so the $10,000, he sends $10,000 and an anonymous letter to the
fundraiser.
the fundraiser,
Telethon.
and Nick Stiles reads out the thing on air. Mm-hmm. And Earl's like watching it on the little TV,
The smallest TV.
handheld TV, and like mouthing along with it. And obviously, from his perspective, it's really, it's really sinister. Mm-hmm. And so then they go and so his Denzel Washington's political buddy takes the cash and is like going to deposit, gets kidnapped. They dress him in drag and hang him, and then put like a bunch of child pornography around and imply that he was because they were
write a
working on
suicide note.
and a suicide note, and that implies that his friend was a child molester that's the reason that he was involved with the kids thing. And I'm like, okay, they put what looked like real child pornography magazines there. Did they borrow those from Jeffrey Epstein? Like where did they get those?
I don't know.
They're like, great, we'll just use naked pictures of kids and put them in this.
Like I said, like anyone got some kiddie stuff we can like throw down there? Like like actual magazines. I'm like that.
It's the first domino in his plan.
Right,
Is
right.
to it seems
Discredit.
like step one, discredit him, destroy his credibility.
Right. So and because they had just taken a trip to Florida to another youth center.
Yes.
And so they're painting it like, oh, this is why he went there. What about Denzel? Maybe Denzel's also or knew about it or something like that.
It seems like, at least my first taste at this point, like, so we're this far into his evil plot, I'm like, this seems like a lot, like way too many steps. Like you could ruin this. You could have ruined this guy by like. You could have just murdered his kids and then be like, I'm going to come back for your wife. Like in that scene where he's at
but that
home
wasn't what
with
he
their
wanted
kids.
to do. His whole point was, I want you to lose everything the way you made me lose everything.
Right.
Now, again, with Earl, we don't really know what he lost. Like, he was a hitman. He got thrown in jail. Like,
This was like, he says in the beginning that this crime he was committing with Kim was going to get him into the big time, get him into the big leagues.
How?
And so
It never
we don't
explained.
know, but it was ruined by prison.
Right.
And so he starts step one, destroy Nick Stiles' credibility,
Right.
and then moves into they just kidnap him.
yeah, they kidnap him. They take him to this empty pool,
Which they don't explain.
which they don't. No, they don't explain how he got. So they
They
take
knock
him to this
him
empty
out and they
pool.
take him to this empty pool.
They shoot him up with cocaine and heroin, and then they hire a hooker. And they had previously, like at a dinner, had this hooker, and so that was a weird thing too, where it,
She was for sure hired,
there's
right?
like the
Is that
hired
the-
hooker who's pretending to be the waitress who walks over, and they're recording it.
Well,
and
it's
she's
not
saying
the
very
it's not
specific
the
things.
hooker who is the
Yeah,
so
it's a different hooker.
It's a waitress, not a hooker.
Okay, well, either way, but she goes over there and
He
and they
records-
records very specific things
Yeah.
that she's saying.
Not the same.
Like this very specific conversation, which
Yes.
which he could say, "Oh no, that was what I said at the dinner," and then there are all these witnesses like, "No, that was him talking at the dinner to that one girl."
Well, he tries to do that.
Yeah.
To
But
Priscilla
anyways,
the Hunt.
but anyways, it pans over and he's sitting there like listening, and all the wait staff is just sitting there staring at him. Like, was he holding them up? Did he bribe them? How did he accomplish this? Like, they're sitting there watching him do this. Anyways, so they shoot him up with cocaine and heroin, get this hooker to come in and very graphically have sex with Denzel. And record it, and then like paste over the stuff, and then kick him out on the streets. And of course, they somehow managed to pick I'm guessing intentionally, pick a hooker that had the clap. And he's like, Earl's still alive. And they're like, no, he's not. He's dead. He's like, yes, he is. He's doing all this. And no one believes him. Even his wife is like, you're crazy. And they don't even bother to like investigate. They're like, no, he's definitely dead. There's no reason for us to go check.
Well, he asks him like after the whole thing with the prostitute, like they're continuing to shoot him up with heroin and cocaine, basically to like get him addicted to, like, when he is out, he's going to be having serious withdrawals. Yeah. And I mean, he's going to be like,
which he never does.
He's going to sound, well, I mean, he sounds like insane.
Sounds like he's dying.
He sounds
he's like
crazy.
Jittery and
he's like
nervous
jittery
when he's
and
talking.
he's like not making any sense to
like,
people.
He's freaking out.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, like, and he asks him, why don't you just kill me, man? And he's like, I am. He goes, I am doing more than that. And so so they find him, like, with all the different homeless people outside of City Hall, wrapped up in a blanket, like he's got vomit on him and stuff like that. And they take him to the hospital, and he's trying to explain to everybody, like, what happened. And everyone's just kind of looking at him like, and even Larry, his partner, goes, Talbot's dead, right? And he's like trying to like give him an out, and he's like, no, he's alive, which is like the biggest thing that he's having the hardest time.
Right.
Like, so that becomes like his mission is like, I've got to prove that John Lithgow is alive.
Right. Yeah, I think the movie at least does a good job to be like, all right, there's a lot of things happening. We don't want you to follow every trail of being like, hey, wait, how does he solve the problem? Like, there's an actual video of him on the news banging this hooker. Well, that's a problem no matter what thing you do. But it's like, don't follow that. Listen, if he finds Lithgow, it's okay. And if whatever he gets arrested or whatever,
the big moment of
Lithgow
gaslighting
wins.
was, so in that pool he notices that there's like, it's like an empty pool, and he notices this 2 dolphin logo, and he's like, wait, there's a hotel with 2 dolphins. And so he's like, come on, I'll show you guys and prove to you that I'm right. They go to the hotel, and it's people doing aerobics. Now they never explain how John Lithgow set up a fake set of this pool. It was like a complete pool. I guess how long? It's unclear to me how long it was since he got out and getting this together, but he set up a complete fake set of this hotel pool.
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing that blows my mind.
That's when people are like, we totally don't believe you.
That's the thing that blows my mind about Denzel. Like, right after he is released, he literally steps into every single trap. That John Lithgow. He's
like,
goes
that rake.
I don't understand.
Another one if I turn around.
I don't understand why he would think that he wouldn't cover his tracks. So he thinks this is going to be the big exonerating thing. He thinks the VHS tape is going to be the big.
To be fair, at that point he's still smacked out on heroin and cocaine.
The VHS tape, the whole thing, the gun after his partner is shot, that he just catches after he goes, now your prints are on the gun. It's like he's like a cartoon villain at this point.
It just keeps escalating and escalating to the point where his partner is like, no, I believe you that he's still alive.
Well, he finds proof.
Yeah, he finds proof, but then he gets shot by John Lithgow. And John Lithgow says, catch. He throws a gun, and Denzel's like, okay, I'll catch it and try to shoot you, right? And then Lithgow's like, oh, I'll just take these gloves. I'll see your prints are all over it. Everyone's going to think you shot your partner. And
then the
cop,
partner says the
instead
greatest
of saying,
line.
well, I'll just, what does he say?
The partner's like, hey, like, I know you're not telling a lie now because he actually shot me. Dude, I know that he's not dead.
Dialogue
you gotta be.
Like,
he can't be dead.
I guess he must be alive because I'm dead now. Something like that.
As he's dying. Like, it was insane.
And so it culminates, and you're like, how is he going to get out of this? And how he gets out of this, he runs home, and they do set up the ending at this point. He goes home, he's like covered in his partner's blood, he busts into his house, and he's like, wife and kids. Now, I don't know why he didn't earlier, like, you need to take our kids and go home. And at some point, he had found a tape in his house of John Lithgow like threatening to chop his kids with an axe.
Well, that's the whole VHS tape is the thing that he is,
and then he swaps it out.
He like passes out that night, and then he wakes up, and on the VHS tape, it literally on the VHS player says "Play Me," and it's from the beginning when he went into the house. He filmed a video of him like about to hit his kids with an axe. And then he just runs. He runs upstairs to make sure they're not dead. Gets a gun and runs to the park where a note is left behind. And then, right as he's running by, Kim walks up.
He runs by Kim, like on the way out.
Runs by Kim with a VHS tape. Like, I was like, why would you not grab that tape? You know that they're covering their tracks.
There was so many, like, this master plan. Part of his master plan is, and then we'll put evidence inside that he could use to totally foil us and kill us.
But
we'll
only if he completely ignores it and acts like an idiot.
We'll assume that he's going to ignore it and leave the door unlocked so that we're able to go back in and just to screw with him, put a different, like, he could have just taken the tape, but instead he puts another tape of him.
That is probably
the
weakest point of John Lithgow's plans.
So I guess after that point is when like he's pretty much got nobody on his side, and he realizes he's got to run. Like,
and he calls Ice-T.
Yeah,
and this is like. We love Ice-T.
Yeah.
And I think he is just such a funny person. But
especially in this movie because he's got like long flowy hair.
Yes.
It's
beautiful.
It for sure looks like out of place. Like there's nothing about it that looks
like
right.
a wig. It looks like it might be attached to the hat he's wearing. But he calls Odessa, his buddy who he had threatened earlier, to like, hey, don't sell crack around this community center. Don't do that. I mean, we have history, but he calls Ice-T's henchman, and he's like, "Oh, it's for you." And he goes, RC. What? All right, hold on. He goes, all right, calm down. And he's like, whoa, immediately.
What?
Like he goes, all right, whoa, slow down.
It's like, how quickly did he spit that plane out? He's like, we're gonna blow up your building.
He waited like 0.5 seconds after the hello, and then he's like, very like cartoony, like takes the phone and goes, this guy's lost his marbles to his buddies.
And it's so funny because at that point you've watched this mildly absurd movie to this point, and you've realized, okay, bad guy goes to jail. He hatches this really insane plot. He's executed almost all of his plot. Is the breaking point for Denzel. You look at the time, and you got 10 minutes left in this movie.
Yeah.
And then you go, all right, well, what is this plan that he just told Ice-T that we're about to see? And then you get the execution of this absurd plan. I mean, just.
His plan basically consists of, I am going to go to the top of Odessa's building where they are actively making crack, and I am going to act like I am going to commit suicide. I'm going to jump off the building, and I want everyone to think that I am absolutely crazy.
Well, and then he's also confessing to everything verbally, and I'm like, hold on a second.
He's yelling on his confessions. He's putting makeup on his face. He takes lipstick and puts it all over his face, and he's like going blah 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 like that.
It is like he's losing his mind to the point where I'm
he's like playing
all right.
into the I'm completely insane off my rocker. But I'm like, okay, I get that Odessa would be like, yeah, I'll help protect your family. But then Odessa's also like, yeah, you can blow up my building with my crack house and my drug empire. I'm fine with this.
Yeah. What a friend.
Yeah.
What a guy.
He was a bro.
He's a buddy, dude.
Yeah.
And then but the whole thing is for John Lithgow. He wants John Lithgow to think he's going to kill himself, which, I mean, for him to know that, like, if I commit suicide, John Lithgow's plan will be all for naught, because the whole point of John Lithgow's plan
is that you have to live on in suffering.
That he goes to jail for the murder of his partner.
Right.
That's like the final thing, is that he completely ruins his life the same way he ruined his. Yeah. And he's like clearly just walking out into the open as Denzel's standing up there.
He's walking out like through the crowd. He's like pushing people aside in the crowd. No one. And later
There's like
in the movie,
reporters like standing right there.
And later in the movie, the reporters instantly from a distance recognize him, like, oh my gosh, that's Earl.
That's Earl.
And he's standing
Right
next to them, and they're just like,
is that Earl?
oh my gosh, it's good job. And at no point, I kept expecting Denzel to be like, oh hi, Earl.
Well, and then there's Ice-T's buddy RC who's like, hey, he's right there. It's like at that point, like, just grab him, and it's
Seriously,
all over.
Like there would be so much less property damage.
But here's the thing, though. So it's like, so you get to that point in the movie, and you're like, okay, one, why is it so important that he go to jail instead of die? Like, if Denzel jumps off and kills himself, well, then that's it. I mean, like
you win.
Still won, dude.
You've just ruined his whole life, and now he's killed himself. And he, for some reason, he knew that would draw him out, which is odd. But then when he's drawn out, you find out that in the meantime, Denzel has hatched a brutal plan that's like, I don't want to just catch him out in front of the reporters. I want to take him up to the tower and fight and and you're like, what in the world?
Well, that's the thing. That's the funny part to me, is that, I mean, every single part of Earl's plan was meticulously planned out from the very beginning. 7 years of just sitting in prison.
That's right.
Besides gladiator fights and everything, he has this entire thing planned out. And it is all foiled by Denzel basically saying, "I'm gonna climb that building and blow it up, and then I'm gonna climb that
It feels
building."
like you know those
and
memes where it's like who
kill
would
him.
win? A trillion lions of the sun. Like who would win? Meticulous 7 years of meticulous planning down to the wire, or I'm gonna climb a tower.
Well, and also like the blowing up of the building.
Oh my gosh! So
What-
that was
was that
ridiculous.
like what part of that
so
was
the
necessary?
The point of
I
that
don't
was
get
to
it.
the point of that was to make Lithgow think that he was dead.
But he immediately
But he
told him that he
immediately
wasn't.
But was the whole purpose to get him to be in such shock that he's standing there when the guy goes, "Hey, phone's for you."
Yeah, that was so weird.
I don't know you.
I don't know you. Phone's for you. But okay, so that was that moment when the building blows up. So he's got a bunch of flares and he throws one into the behind him in the skylight, and there's a bunch of acetone or flammables on the floor to blow up the building. And he runs to the other side of the building, jumps through a skylight, and this was what I call an MI2 moment because Greg and I watched a lot of movies, and every now and then there's a moment that makes us sit up in our seats and say, rewind that, we have to watch that again. And it started, the first one I can remember was Mission Impossible 2.
We did it
with
like
the
3
motorcycle
times.
scene in the smoke machine.
Yeah.
And the slap. So, an MI2 moment. He jumps through the skylight and directly into the trash chute to slide out of the building. And we were like, what? I'm sorry, what?
And it's got like that funny 80s
The-
audio where he's sliding through it. You hear him like,
It's like the Goonies, when they're going down the water slide.
It's such a serious and intense and dour movie up until that point, and then he's going crazy. You're like, oh, this is the end. And then it goes completely into Clown Town.
I told Nathaniel, I was like, it all of a sudden turned into like an R-rated Little Rascals,
Yeah.
where you have
It's like-
Ice Cube
or-
and his buddies like tripping the cops, and he's like, hey, you go ahead, buddy.
Or
and they're
like you said,
attached to
Wile
the
E.
electric-
Coyote and Roadrunner. I almost
Yeah.
expected
That's what his
the
plan
cartoon
seems
like cartoon sound effects to just start playing. So he lures John Lithgow over to the two tower
the two
Looney
towers,
Tower thing
which
that
is
he's
where they're
building.
building the community center, which is
And-
basically
yeah.
just like
This big metal structure at this point.
Yes.
It's just like a big. It looks like a radio tower.
yeah.
And he's climbed up on it. And he's like, "Come and get me, bitch!"
Yeah.
And so John Lithgow climbs up, and they have this fight. And
Yeah.
you see
But the whole time, Denzel is monologuing to
Yeah.
him,
Yeah.
I have gotten such the upper hand
Yeah.
on you. You
Yeah,
didn't
it's like-
expect
he's
that
like, look how
building to
great-
blow
yeah.
up, did
Look
you?
how-
Yeah, right.
After
you went
After
to jail.
Lithgow has
Parkour,
gotten him
dodging, yeah.
5 times, he has gotten the upper
Santa
hand
Claus
so
tactics.
many times, and he's like, I have everything you don't have. I got kids,
I got a wife.
He's like all this
jail.
stuff, and then he gets up on the top of this building. John Lithgow grabs his arm and
They're
just
trying to arm wrestle.
jams it
Yeah,
down
right.
on a piece of rebar. And I was like, was that part of your plan?
And what's funny about that is about half the scenes after that, he's not using that arm. He's holding it closed, and then half the scenes just
Yeah, right.
You have to remember: are you injured or
Yeah.
are you not injured?
Well, and also it ends with him there's one bar kind of peeling off, and he's holding on to it, and then eventually he has to let go of that, and he's holding on to the rope, and then Lithgow gets electrocuted and falls off, and then it cuts back to Denzel, and he's back onto the bar, and he's like, ha ha! I got you. I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah. So they're fighting up on this tower, and Denzel Washington puts a rope around himself and hooks it on, and it's this is one of the other
shot, too,
amazing
right?
body double
Yeah,
where he's slowly swinging around one of the towers,
yeah.
and this whole time. The Odessa's boys, so Ice-T's boys, are keeping the cops away, basically sitting on them, literally physically sitting on them, being you just gotta wait, but letting the reporters through. And again, they see it, and they're like, oh my gosh, that's the guy who said he was dead. Instantly.
He says, we're in the district attorney assistance club. We're assisting the district attorney. Don't make us club.
Oh my
God.
gosh! That's this is an absolute clown movie at this point. But Ice-T sneaks up with jumper cables and hot wires the tower and runs electricity through, which doesn't even phase John Lithgow. It just zaps him and makes him fall off the tower.
And he falls, and he gets
Impaled on a spike.
Yeah,
on a spike.
He gets impaled on another piece of rebar.
Yeah.
And then Denzel's just one arm hanging on to the tower, and then the movie
And then the
ends.
next shot is him he's walking down the steps. So he has come down, and all these reporters and cops are running around. And it's no questions.
Nope.
Just one guy runs up and puts a blanket
Blanket on him,
around
yeah.
Denzel.
It
It's
must be
like,
cold, so-
wow, this must have been really hard for you. We're all really sorry.
Yeah, and that's another one where he
you've been
forgets. He
framed.
remembers he was injured because his wife and kids come up, and he uses one arm, and his other arm's hanging limply. And then, like the next shot, he's like using his other arm.
Yeah,
You're like, come
and
on,
it's like
man.
Odessa, I'm gonna see you on the basketball court, right?
It's like, dude, you're hurt.
Yeah. And then it just ends. The movie just ends. It's
Yeah,
just
well,
like,
he walks up to the reporter lady, and she's like, he's just like standing there, like mean mugging her for a second. And she's like,
hold
"Oh,
up. Is this
Nick
all?
Styles, how are you?" He goes, "News at 11." Nah.
turns the camera off.
He goes,
And that's the end of the movie. You're like, what? It's just such an insane.
And then the
ending.
song that comes on
Oh my
is
gosh.
Ice-T's
Yeah.
Ricochet, which
Yep.
is the song he
Yep.
wrote for the movie.
Yep.
Which,
Amazing.
like,
Bop.
in my one of my questions was like, why was this movie called Ricochet?
I guess it's the bounce
because
back.
it's like because it's like he hit this guy and then it bounced back and came back to him, like revenge.
Yeah.
Ricochet.
That's a stretch.
I'm not really. It's like you took a shot, but it bounces back and damages you.
Yeah.
That's the idea.
Okay, all right. Well, okay, let's talk about characters then. so let's dig into some of the characters. Juan, I haven't heard a lot from you. You kind of just been sitting there quiet this whole time, and I appreciate you being here.
sure.
Second time guest. Talk to us about some of your favorite characters in this movie.
Favorite characters?
Stir the
I like
pot.
the book guy in the jail.
The guy gets shot like
the little gremlin
He
guy.
was so sweet. And
Yeah, he was
so
a sweet guy.
lovable and kind. And the fact that he died really broke my heart.
I was like,
And, like, I
Hey,
was like,
young
"Hey,
fella, you remember me?
Dang,
Which he did not have to do at all, and totally alerted all of the guards that, hey, I'm escaped.
That's right, and I'm killing people now.
Like, it wasn't like the guy was like, hey, wait a second, that guy's a prisoner. He's escaping. All he said was, hey, young fella, you remember me from the hospital?
well, he wasn't their
that,
getaway vehicle, so that might have been
yeah.
why.
The
Also, sick
bookmobile.
vehicle, dude.
Which,
The bookmobile's
how they
lit,
evaded
dude.
cop cars in that giant van, like the Teen Wolf style van.
It felt like
They
there was
jettisoned all the books. They got rid of all the balance. They made
Yeah.
it go faster.
there was just like an infinite amount of power tools that all the inmates could just continuously
Right,
lose
yeah.
all the guards until the car was
but
far
then
enough
every
away.
inmate other than Ivan Drago gets shot
Yeah.
at some point.
And Jesse. Well, I guess Jesse wasn't or not Jesse. What's the kid's
Kim.
name?
Kim.
Yeah.
Kim.
But he
Who
was
is
an
the
inmate.
guy? If
Kim
Chad's
wasn't there.
wondering.
Yeah.
Right. And so they get away, and then that's the end of book guy.
Man, that
Also, wait, the scene on the cliff is kind of sick with like the silhouette of the.
Oh,
building, you know
yeah.
what I mean? That's good cinematography right there.
I
Come
was
on,
gonna
baby.
say there is.
it's weird because there's some good
there's
cinematography.
one really good-
and there's
there's
some
one-
really bad cinematography.
Yeah, that's
It's
true.
it's definitely on the. It's like movies in this period of the '80s were like,
A little
hey,
experimental.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, there's a couple
Cutting
cool
edge.
things that we can freaking do.
And it was
here.
91, but yeah.
And so you have that one scene where Denzel's jumping out of the house and it's clearly shot on a car. I mean, it's not a dolly. No dolly moves that fast, but it's like it shoots at him and then it speeds out in front of him and then you see him following the shot down the street and then he
Yeah, that was a
passes
really good
by
shot.
him. Really cool shot. The rest of the movie was pretty
Especially
hilarious.
that weird moment, and I think it's in the hotel where it just zooms in on John Lithgow's face, like not framed face, like just part of his face for no reason.
Yeah, I think he was by himself. I'm pretty sure it was when he was watching the political whatever, and
Yeah.
he's at home with their kids, and he's sitting there watching the TV like ha
yeah,
ha
just
ha
nodding.
ha ha, and it just
Yeah.
zooms on his face. He's like ha ha ha. I'm like, whoa, what's going on here?
And also, you have that. Does John Lithgow have a cloudy eye?
So he wore a contact to make it look like he had a glass eye.
Okay.
They
And
never explained that either.
that it's a glass
Yeah.
eye.
It's his magic eye.
It's his magic eye. Like
magic eye.
they reference it
Creepy.
once, but it never
See,
comes
that's
up.
the part where
And-
if I was the babysitter, I would have said, okay, something's up here.
No, wait a minute.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, worst
Also,
babysitter ever.
what do you-
Surprise birthday party, I'm all good for, but magic eyes, that's where I draw the
Slow
line.
eye.
Surprise birthday party, which
Explain.
you would think she would know. Like she's clearly their common babysitter. You think she would know their birthdays.
Yeah.
And you think the girls are what?
They're like 3 and 4.
3 and 4. Okay, maybe they don't know their birthdays. They seemed older than that, like 4 or 5, but maybe.
So wait, did he convince the babysitter that it was? He's like, oh, you didn't know it's their birthday. Is
Well,
that what
it's
he
I
said?
think it was his birthday. He was saying the electrician. It was his birthday, right? Weren't they celebrating?
Maybe.
Well,
his
no,
own
the
birthday?
little
'Cause they were
girl goes,
unclear.
is it really
our birthday? And I was like, what? Why
What?
would you
I
not?
missed that. That's
What? I'm so confused. Yeah.
Yeah, is she the worst character in the movie?
the babies.
No, the
that's the
worst
real
character in the
question.
movie is Kim.
Can't.
I would
okay.
say he's
So,
the
I-
worst
like,
character.
what is
He
his
is the
purpose?
most like interesting to me because I want to know his story. Like, what did
Yeah, bro,
what
like, why are
did
you so
John
into
yeah,
mans?
what
Like,
did
hello?
John Lithgow do for
Literally.
you that you are
All he does is
100%
abuse you. He
in.
just hates you. He does not like you, dude.
And like it's not like your typical like Captain Hook like Shmee like relationship where it's like the guy's like, oh brother, feeling all bummed about being beat up on. He's totally okay with it all the
Dude,
time.
I'm
Right up
riding
until the end. Right up until the end. He's like strung up and he's like, I actually hate you.
You know what? Actually, I backed the wrong horse.
We don't really know why, other than the fact that he is now captured, and he's like, "Oh man, like I hate you now. You didn't."
kind of stinks.
Yeah.
And then John Lithgow immediately kills him.
I mean, he shoots him like 9 times. Which, like, did you not see that coming? He hated you.
He's in that scene. He's looking for Denzel, and he's like, and then he sees Kim sitting there going, "Oh, you suck," and he just goes, and he keeps running around looking for Denzel.
What do you think, you stupid idiot? You made him angry. That's like his one role.
Just before that, he was sitting at the bar going, "You're like a genius, man. Nobody knows how to do these things. You do. You're so great." And he just goes, "Shut up," just for no reason, just
He had
mean
to
to him.
focus. He had to focus.
He's constantly telling him to shut up.
It's just the whole movie. But yeah, I would say Kim and Babysitter were maybe a little bit of Odessa.
Babysitter wasn't even like a role. It was just a bit player.
But
And we're talking about actual characters. So what are the actual characters? You've got, obviously, Nick Stiles. Yeah, you got Denzel and John Lithgow. You've got his
Denzel's
partner.
Yeah,
You've got both of their partners.
Kim.
Right? Kim and I can't remember the other guy's partner. You got
White
the
guy.
politician guy who gets hung. You got
Ferris.
Priscilla the Hun. And you got the wife. And those are kind of maybe the reporter, because she comes up a couple times, but not really. And then, of course, Odessa. So you got like
Odessa's
8 actual characters that have actual roles to play and aren't just there.
What was the motivation for Odessa to want to blow up his entire
That's
factory?
what I said earlier.
That's
Right,
like,
I thought about that.
what
Is he
was-
his boy?
yeah,
But
it was
it's
just his
dude,
boy.
I don't know. You've been estranged for so long.
But he also, like, just before that came in and was like, "Hey, come on, man, don't be doing this." And he's like, "Yeah, we are going to do this. Don't come up in here like that." He's like, "Okay." And then later he's like, "Hey, by the way, you remember when I said that I wanted you to stop, but you said no?" And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "I want you to blow up everything." He's like, "All right, dog, I got you. I got you." And he's like,
no, bro, slow down. Slow down.
That was my favorite part. He's such an Ice-T moment.
"Slow down." And
Well,
I'm like,
hold
"Oh,
on.
Hold on, brother man.
He says it like 3 seconds after.
This movie would have benefited from a little bit more like Odessa and John Lithgow interaction. I would have paid to see
that'd
them
be
interact a
amazing.
little bit more,
Yeah.
and him just be like, "I'm gonna come and fuck all your boys, and what are you gonna do about it?" And then it'll just be like, "Yawn, man, we don't play that around here." Right? And I'm like, I just wonder what that interaction would look like.
What'd you guys think of like the gladiator Spartan
see-
scene in the prison?
Well, but real quick before we go into that,
yeah.
this was the moment when he turned his life of crime around and then he joins the Special Victims Unit.
Wait, did he?
It all.
Yeah, it's he's on Law and Order SVU as a cop.
I like that. I like
He had a
that.
change of heart.
It's all connected. All right, the gladiator scene. Yeah,
Okay.
Wild, huh?
that was insane.
What kind of prison is
yeah.
that, dude? What?
We were like,
What is broken a
this
spear,
is some
dude?
sort of like
And they get
weird
body armor with like phone books. Like what?
Yeah, my favorite
That's
part
nutty.
is like there's clearly like some system too to where he like disarms the guy and they're all sitting around like, "All right, now
It's going down.
Well, that's so
Ivan
funny is because
Drago's
one
just
of them
like-
literally says, "When we got a disagreement here, this is how we settle things." Yeah, right. It's like you guys have done this
Bro, just
before.
talk it out.
Like,
dude.
how
It's
many
Yeah, we
gladiator
have the
matches.
broadswords already made.
Yeah,
we have
buddy.
to use them.
Maybe the prison was in New Jersey. Who knows?
Like they literally look like clowns. Like they've
Yeah,
got
it's actual
books
clown.
like taped around their heads.
Yeah,
Like,
it looks ridiculous.
It's a scene out of like I don't know. Even for this
I can't
movie,
even-
it was
It's
the
like a
most.
scene out of Braveheart.
Yeah.
it's like they just threw it in there out of
Yeah.
nowhere.
And he like definitely dies, right?
Oh, yeah,
Like,
he gets stabbed.
How does the guy not like get in trouble? Like how does?
Oh,
Yeah,
and then,
what
and then,
do
like,
they
they're
do with
like
the
stitching
body?
up his wounds, and they're like, "Sorry, you fell down the stairs."
It's like what,
Yeah.
dude? No.
Oh yeah, the other guy that fell
buddy
down the
got
stairs and got impaled through the heart. Man, that was wild too. We both fell down the stairs at the same time. He must have hit a piece of rebar. You actually should check
And he
that
had
out.
phone books strapped to him.
Well, that's why I thought like so. Here he is, moments after that. Well, in the movie, obviously, maybe it's several months or whatever in their time, but he's on a parole meeting. It's like I don't think you get parole
Yeah,
hearings
right.
after
quadruple homicide.
After you just
I'm pretty sure that's life without parole.
Yeah, and then when you get into jail, you beat up your cellmate and then kill him, and then you're still like, all right, well, do you think that you could rejoin society? And immediately he's just like, no, I would kill you and go to your house, and they're just like, oh, tell me
your
more.
Daughter, and bang your wife, and then he's like, maybe bang your dog,
And then he's like, and
I
then
don't think
didn't
that's
say
funny. Then you're really not going to like this.
magical pen gun, pew.
It is not the response you have to that.
Yeah,
and
I
then
don't find that funny.
all of it.
11th
you
grade
just
teacher.
say, okay, parole denied.
Listen here, buddy.
It's like, and what is it? Is it in the same room as the parole hearing?
quiet
Yeah.
Is it in the same room as the parole hearing? There are inmates working with power tools.
It's in the
is that what's
hallway
happening?
behind him, and it's
Yeah,
like,
dude. And then bro had a shotgun, dude. Like what?
yeah. He disarmed the guard and took his shotgun.
He like they have saws and drills, and they just start
That was the most
they start
chaotic scene,
they
yeah.
start just ending people's lives with these saws and drill, like just mowing people down. And you're like, why were these guys given power tools?
And why were the guards all standing next to them with their backs turned? Like every single one was standing next to an inmate, a violent inmate with a power tool, and turned
Yeah.
away from them.
It's
Like,
crazy. And then they walk out of jail.
well, they
Like,
had
what-
that. So they
Well,
I know
they
got the
changed the
suits,
clothes.
but
They have
like,
the
dude,
lawyer who, like, I guess he's like
six to take out,
six
and
leaving.
you're like, okay, how many did you go
the
in with?
guards change in like the hour that they got there? That they were like, oh wow, these people really changed.
And then,
really
like you
different,
mentioned,
yeah.
it ended up being all for naught because he met the book guy and he's like, oh, hi, remember me? Like,
shoots him, and then he's like, he's in the bookmobile, and he's holding his lawyer as they're like, he goes, oh, and by the way, you're
fired.
fired, and he just shoots him and just falls, and then no one pursues, nobody
They're like-
right there.
They're sitting there just like, oh man, what a clusterfuck. That was wild.
oh, man. Well, they did shoot down all the guards. One dude had some serious shots. He took down some of the tower snipers.
Right.
With a
Yeah.
with a
With a
shotgun.
shotgun. Okay, shotguns have a lot more range than
Yeah.
they do in video games. I don't know if they have that much range.
That was the part that I was like, that would that do anything from that?
You'd have to ask someone who's more knowledgeable.
That's
about
why
guns,
the
but I
movie's
know-
called Ricochet,
Yeah.
right there.
But because when
Clearly,
you're like
because of the
skeet shooting, you can
shotguns.
skeet shoot from 40, 50 yards with a shotgun, no problem. Those are pretty small targets, so I don't know how
Yeah.
I don't know how narrow the spread is. It's also possible that in a jail they have slugs instead of pellets. So.
I have
Which
another
case you'd have
question.
longer range. Someone who's knowledgeable about guns, let us know.
Please.
I can actually look that up.
when bro was in the hospital with the shot kneecap, and then he gets 2 books and like puts them on his.
We talked about
What's
Yeah.
going on there? Or y'all talked about it.
Well,
already?
Yeah,
well,
we
I
thought
don't
it was
hear
about
your
the
thoughts
weight. We thought it
because-
was about the weight at the end because we thought it was like locked up because he got shot and he's not bending, and so he's trying to get it to bend.
Makes sense. Yeah, I guess that's why he needs a heavier. book.
Like that would be, in my opinion, a theme of this movie is that there are a lot of things that happen that just aren't very quickly explained,
Yeah,
and
just
they don't
happen.
really bother, and we're left to be like, oh, yeah, I guess he was exercising with the books. Like it puts a lot of effort into what he's doing. He's like, give me a book, and he's like, okay, here's one. He's like, a bigger one, and I looked at Nathanael. I'm like, oh, he's just gonna kill him with the book. Like,
Yeah, I
he's
thought
gonna
he
take-
was gonna do that, too.
That's what I
really
think. He's
thought he
just
was
gonna
gonna
not
kill him.
kill
This
him.
little dude.
And
Yeah,
then,
right.
so then he gets the big book, and you're like, okay, what's he gonna do? And he
War
goes,
and Peace.
give me another one. Give me that big Bible. You're like,
And he goes,
you're sitting
bless
there.
you.
Okay.
So they're going-
according to Hunter Education, depending on the buckshot, you could have a range of 1,500 to 2,000 feet with a shotgun.
Wow.
And with slugs, you can get up to like 3,000, 3,500 feet. So that's not actually that unrealistic. So there you go.
Right.
Hey, there we go.
Video game shotguns are just not
They're
accurate
boo-boo.
at all.
They're boo boo. Yeah.
It's science time with Nathaniel Levinson.
Oh,
Teach
thanks.
me,
I don't have my headphones on because they're not working. I was like, why am I hearing myself?
Here's a question I have about this movie: is Denzel good in this movie?
Is he the good guy?
Like
No. Is he good?
Oh, does
Like
he-
a
like
good
Does he
acting?
do a good job as an
acting?
actor in
You
this
know what,
movie?
dude? When he gets drugged, I was like, man, that's some good acting right
Yeah,
there, dude.
the part that I think sold it for me, honestly, and I know this is early on in the movie, but it's when he's in the courtroom and he's doing
that scene is-
that thing with his fingers on the in front of the jury, and he's like banging his fingers on there. I was like, man, he deserved that
Oh, I
Oscar.
love it when he's like what's the scene where he's like,
Yeah,
Wait,
where
does that- well, that was my next. That was my
and
next
then he like
question.
whispers
I'm
his
pretty
next
sure you
line
can't
not
do that
to
in
the
court.
jury. I'm like, dude, they can't hear you.
He's in the very back of the court. He's like where the lawyers aren't supposed to go.
Yeah, right.
But that's my other question: is Nick Stiles a little
bad
bit?
lawyer.
Is he a little bit crazy before all this goes down? Because there's several instances where he does like that big outburst and he like runs and he's like
Well, he does the thing where he has a gun in his jockstrap and he strips down.
does that and he
does
strips
the DA
down.
thing where he goes insane in the courtroom to win a case. So I think he is like a little unhinged.
Yeah.
The whole time.
Is he already
And like
just
walks out on his daughter's baptism.
Yeah.
Dude, like
Well,
schedule a meeting.
See, that was something. That was something.
also
that
why
wasn't-
is the baptism? It seems to be at like 3:00 on a Tuesday. But like we got to go.
that was a thread that I for sure thought that they were going to keep pulling on. Like, okay, he clearly like he's not there for his family. He's put them on the back burner. Like his career is forward, and he's going to learn by the end. And then there's no time after the end for him to grow at all. He just like kisses his wife, and then
like, you still love me.
yeah, and I was like,
but
wait,
then-
should
but
we
then-
spend like the next 5 minutes seeing that he has taken like a cop job again and stepped down so that he can spend more time with his family or something? And it just,
Well, but then
movie's
also
over.
when his political buddy, whose name for the life of me I can't remember,
Ferris.
Ferris, yeah. When Ferris is like, hey, we need to get you into bigger positions and da da da. He's like, I don't want to do that. I'm a district attorney, and I want to spend time with my family. So he's clearly acknowledged that I don't want to go further than this. Like I don't have ambitions beyond this.
But he's already being a bad dad.
Sure,
I mean,
sure.
And he has like that. I think one of the best moments for him acting, he's just so good, is that part where he is like zonked out after drinking. He's sitting there in that pink robe and he goes, "You haven't had dinner with your wife in 3 months," or something like that. And he's just like, he's listing off like all of his failures and everything like that. And he's coming to this realization that he's not as great as he thought he was before. And it's sad that it's taken all of this for him to find that out.
Denzel, brother.
this
He's
was
so good.
He is good.
I was
Come on
thinking
now.
like
That smile, dude.
before I'd seen this before
check
I'd
your
seen
side
this
mirrors?
movie, I thought to myself, I'm like, Denzel is great, but his range kind of exists in the I'm a badass area. Like there's not many movies I've seen with him where he's not just like he's not the man, right? Like I think like Man on Fire, he's confidence like embodied in that movie, and he's awesome. Like
Equalizer.
Equalizer is a
Remember the
very similar.
Titans.
Yeah, Remember the Titans. He plays this character that in every single scene you kind of figure that he knows
always
what's
very
going
self-confident
on.
person.
And he has elements of that in this one, but this was one of the first ones I saw where I'm like, oh, he's kind of like really zany and strange, and like
That-
it's a different side of Denzel that I wasn't used to, and I was pleasantly surprised by his range in this movie because I do think that he was weird before all the stuff happened.
Well, Denzel is like one of those actors. I feel like Tom Hanks. Like we don't like to see him lose.
Yeah.
We like to see. We don't want to see Superman like be
Like
around
trip a little
kryptonite.
bit. Yeah.
We don't want to see him do bad things. We like to see Denzel Washington win. That's why like movies like Training Day, where he is
That's a great movie, though.
It's so good, and he is a really bad guy, and he won an Oscar for it. Or even in like Glory, where he is like this super. These are both where he won his Academy Awards. Like he is so angry. He is such an angry guy during the Civil War, and so I mean he's got and Flight, the Zemeckis one. That's another one where he's like an addict,
the
and
pilot,
he's like,
right?
that's a good
That's
one.
a good one, dude. He like, flies the plane.
Yeah,
upside down.
he does drama and like brokenness well, but you know I think because he does the self-confidence so well, that's what we want to see him as, and we love him in that role. So seeing him in that kind of broken down role, which he's very good at, is a little bit of a shock.
It's a
And of
change of
course,
pace,
I think
for
more of his more modern movies, his later stuff, is more of him in that self-confidence,
Right, because it feels like he definitely found his stride there.
Yeah.
And they were like, everybody was sitting there like, okay, this is where we want to see him. We want to keep seeing him be this guy. It's kind of like Liam Neeson, where we're like, okay, we figured out that this is how we like to see him.
terrible Aslan. Sorry, Liam.
Let me just like never see you as anything other than the guy from Taken in every
Right,
movie
right.
that you play in from this point on.
Right.
But that's where like what does make a good, what in your opinion is what makes a good actor? Because I think for a while I thought that range was everything, and I thought that Will Smith was one of the best actors of the time, because I was sitting there like, man, okay, you're awesome in things like I, Robot and I Am Legend. Like you could do the action. You're hilarious, like in Fresh Prince and Hitch and all the comedies he does. Like he's hysterical. I still think Will Smith is hysterical, even though he's slapping people. And he could also do he could also do the uber serious, right? The 7 Pounds Pursuit of Happiness, where he's crying every other scene, which is incredibly difficult to do as an
Ali,
actor.
dude.
And so for a while I was like, you know what? I think that he really has it. But then I don't know. I think as I've gone on, I've been like, I don't know if I need to see range that much. I think I might just be impressed by people like Denzel and others.
It's funny because great acting takes all sorts of different forms, and there are some actors who they do one role really, really well.
Right.
There are actors who play themselves, and for movies where that works, it's amazing. And for every other movie, you're like, it's just Mark Wahlberg in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's just Ryan Gosling in this movie. Not Ryan Gosling, Ryan Reynolds in this movie. Ryan Gosling's actually a little bit better than that. You have actors who can play a range. It's so like Will Ferrell. Usually you'll have now. Classic, older actors would do all sorts of things, but now you tend to get more typecast because Hollywood's a little more risk averse, and so they're like, well, you made money with the comedy, so you're going to stay in comedy.
Sure.
It's like Will Ferrell is mostly in comedic movies, but if you've ever seen Strangers in Fiction, he is brilliant in that movie, and that is it's not without its funny moments, but it's a dramatic, serious movie, and it's very poignant and emotional, and he's fantastic in that movie. So he has that range. He just doesn't get put it in a lot. So I think there are actors who can do a broad range of things. But for me, I think you got to take it on a case by case basis, and then you look at if you look at a lot of different examples, if one actor has a ton of examples of them doing an excellent job, you say, okay, well that's a mark of an excellent actor.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like, oh, he's great in this one movie, but in everything else he's kind of garbage.
Right.
But if it's consistency, I think is the mark of a great actor. It's that you can be in different roles and succeed in different roles, and maybe it's one type of role, right? You can get typecast, but if you're consistently very good, and to me, it's about selling the emotion that I'm supposed to be feeling in the movie.
Yeah.
Whether it be a comedy, a drama, an action, thriller, whatever the movie type is, if you're selling me, if you're pulling me into the emotion of the moment, that to me is good acting, and it goes hand in hand with good writing, there are plenty of examples of really poorly written movies where actors are desperately trying to save the movie and they're acting really well and you just can't save the movie.
Mm-hmm. It's a terrible movie.
Yeah.
Well, that's where I feel like I differ from the modern. I feel like right now what people just lose their mind for as far as oh my gosh, what a great acting performance. It's just people that play just the most outlandish, bizarre things ever. Like Joaquin Phoenix right now is just the hottest thing ever because in every movie he plays, he's insane, or he's losing his mind, or he's the Joker, or he's in love with a computer, whatever the case is. And he's
Great
not.
movie.
He's not. But he's not playing like a normal guy. And for whatever reason, and I don't know why. Maybe I need to just talk about it. But I find a problem with that. I think that he needs to act as more. I think he's better in his more grounded earlier stuff. Actually, I thought that he plays Lucius Hunt in The Village. I think he's an amazing job in that movie. He plays Merle in Signs. Great job in that movie. He plays the evil whatever emperor in. He's great. I think he did a good job in Johnny Cash as well, or Walk the Line. But I just don't like. I don't know. I think it's almost like a cop out because. If you're acting crazy and weird and zany, it's like, what's the basis for that? If I'm watching and I'm like, oh, you nailed it. That's how a normal Joker would act. You have no idea. So you're like, well, there's nothing, as opposed to like Robin Williams or somebody like playing a real person. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm crying watching the scene from Good Will Hunting. And I'm like,
again,
it's incredible.
I think it goes back to what I say. It's like, can they pull you into the emotion that you're supposed to be feeling?
Yeah.
I feel like zanier characters are very hit or miss for that. Sometimes they can pull you into that.
But I'm saying right now, I think that's what people love.
Like
Liam would say.
And
I wouldn't even say that it's zany characters that, we'll say Hollywood loves right now. I would say it's IP.
Yeah.
It's intellectual property that people really want. So like the Joker. They know they've got like a great backing behind that. He's an iconic character, and we'll throw Joaquin Phoenix in there because we know he'll take it to like the next level and stuff like that. And yeah, I do agree that there is like some of the subtlety of acting like has been lost by that. Like, I think about like we watched the new what's her name?
Madam Web.
No, Emma Fox. What's her name? What's
Stone?
Poor Things. Emma Stone. I don't know why I couldn't remember her name.
Poor Things.
We watched Poor Things, and she is like bonkers in that movie, and like did a really good job.
She's like a robot clone thing.
She's like a girl who had her brain replaced with the brain of a baby, and so
that's really uncomfortable.
Yeah, so it's like wild. It's like really.
Did she win in a category?
She did. She won. It's very Yorgos Lanthimos. So, but it is it's wild. But then you have like characters like Robert Downey Jr. who played the Senator in Oppenheimer, and he's getting an Academy Award with that, and that's way more subtle and less screen time like that. And then Cillian Murphy who won. Oppenheimer is not like this crazy cheesy, like zany character.
That's true. That's
and
true.
so I think there is still some respect for that. It doesn't have to be like this completely outlandish, like out there person.
Yeah, and I think a big part of it is that our current era of Hollywood is very bland.
Yeah.
And so what sticks out are really good acting jobs, which are more the subtle ones, but they're much more rare now than they used to be. And then the outlandish ones stick out just because it's something different from all the very monotonous sludge where all the men have been feminized and all the women have been masculinized, where everyone's just like this gray blob. It's like The Giver. Like they're just sucking all the joy and color out of everything. Yeah. And you know, it's just, everything's monotonous now, and it's all flashy and pretty colors, but at a certain point, that stops being exciting. Which is why we've seen Hollywood go, which is great. I'm very pro Hollywood crashing and burning. Right
And
now.
that's why, like, when you have a movie like Ricochet,
and we go back
when
and
you
see
have a movie like
let's
Ricochet,
go.
like that back in the day, like got like on Metacritic, it's got like a 46 or something like that, and Siskel and Ebert gave it 2 thumbs down. But it's the ones you hear like modern movie lovers go, it's like, if I could have a movie like this come out every month, I would love it because it's consistent. It's just a good ABC story that's got crazy stuff in it. It's like The Fugitive.
Was it an ABC story?
It's like The Fugitive or Die Hard or just like one of these classic. That's why like when these movies come out that people are like, that felt like a 90s, 80s action movie.
Right.
Like they get so hyped for it because it's like, are we coming back to that? And it's like, oh, it was just an original guy. It wasn't like Thor or the Hulk or some superhero that has to be the action movie
or the
now.
27th Fast and Furious movie. Or the
Exactly.
97th
It doesn't have to be
Transformers.
like a huge franchise or something like that. It's like
Godzilla
it can
X
just be
Kong.
a standalone story that like this was dope.
Yeah, I think we're gonna see, and it's gonna because you know everything's like 5-10 years back depending on the production cycles. But I think we're gonna see the kind of end of the $200-300 million every film being that much, and moving back to the mid-budget movies, which will bring back movies like Ricochet, where directors can take a few more risks, can push the envelope a little more, and so you know, hopefully, if it swings back that way, then hopefully the next 5-10 years of cinema will actually be exciting, until it gets bloated again. But you know, things run in cycles. But hopefully, I'm hopeful that Hollywood collapsing and just crumbling into dust is a good thing, and will lead us to better cinema.
We're seeing it a little bit now with like in my opinion, so like Dune 2 comes out, which is great.
And that was
you
a
know?
huge,
That was a
very
great
big budget movie.
Yeah.
But it was also, it felt like a big budget movie.
But I think my feeling when I went in there was I was like, okay, there was a time where movies like this came out pretty regularly. Like again, the this is how it should be. All the graphics are better. All the cinematography is improved. All that, like in my opinion, the story to Dune 2 was fine, but there's not really any characters to latch onto, in my opinion. I don't think that there's really, we can get into this if we want and kind of detract, but
He didn't like the story. But he hadn't read the book, so.
it's
Yeah, I
not
read the books.
necessarily the
Books are better.
story. It's more
story's good,
it's
though.
more the characters and being like none of them are grounded enough for me to
Shawnee, she's
have
cool.
emotion.
The
through.
Jim Jam Jabber.
The gum jabar.
How
dare you use the Silence! What a scene, dude.
but that movie, in my opinion, like is great, and it's touted right now as being just like, oh my goodness, it's saving Hollywood, and I'm like, that's great, but also like I think we need to realize that what Andrew said, like there was a time where movies like this were produced quite often, and I'm just really excited and looking forward to
Spy
yeah.
Kids 5 to like. You know what I mean?
Hey,
That's the opposite
No.
of what we're saying.
we need
that Robert Rodriguez?
no sequels, no superheroes,
You're right.
and no remakes, and then I'll go and watch it.
Yeah.
Take
And
those
new Spy Kids.
Yeah.
3 things out.
Well, here's
Spy
the
Men.
well here. How about this?
Men,
How about this?
yes.
There's a movie
teens.
that came out. There's a movie that came out last year called The Creator, which was
Oh, yeah,
made by
the,
the guy who directed Rogue One.
Yeah.
It is a completely original story. I can't remember if it's based on a book or a graphic novel or something like that, but I think it was an original story. And it is like a totally original sci-fi world about like AI and all that kind of stuff.
I heard good things about it.
Bombed.
Yes.
Nobody's seen
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Nobody's
I've never
heard
even
it.
heard
And
of it,
so we
yeah.
say that we want these things, but then we're like,
Well,
but then
the other thing is, as you know, as much as we're like, oh, I'm not swayed by marketing. Marketing does play a huge role in what people
Yeah.
see, and again, it's a cycle of Hollywood only puts money into the marketing of the sequels and the stuff that they're like, we're guaranteed to make money, and so that's the only thing people hear about, so that's the only thing people go see, so that's the only thing they fund. And so it's going to have to be both Hollywood saying we're going to take more risks and people saying we're going to go look for the more independent stuff, the more creator-driven stuff.
Well, this is the problem, like because risk is the key word there. Because before, when you were like, "Oh, risk," it was like, okay, you had something bomb and you lost some money. We put so much money into movies now to where to make that movie, the creator, I don't know the budget is.
It was like
$100
million.
It was
the
number is $100 million. We don't even bat an eyelash at that now. We're like, $100 million, whatever. That's it. So that when that bombs, you lose like $40 or $30 million, and it's not a small thing. And
$80 million.
So that's why these.
It grossed $104 million on a budget of $80 million, which is not great.
Not great.
But
Which is
considering
still-
it probably didn't have a huge marketing budget, it probably broke even, which is, or maybe a little under.
While we're talking budget, Ricochet, 19 million.
Yeah.
Made 21.
Hey,
Let's go.
easy break even.
But the thing is, like nowadays, it costs so much to make a movie that these production companies are like, okay, give us some guarantees. Like this is the business. Like this is like where my mind is as a business owner. It's like they're sitting there going, okay, why do we need to invest in you? Like prove it, right? Is this a Marvel movie? We know that those make money, all right?
Except they're not. That's
is
the
this a
thing.
sequel?
And that's the thing.
And we're getting there, but that's why we had this time of just everything looks the same, everything's so cookie cutter because it costs so much to make a movie now.
Well, and
they have to go with the sure thing, and they're super scared to do movies like the creator or whatever that movie was where it
this is
bombs
something-
and now it's a huge problem. Instead of a normal movie that bombs, it's like all right, on to the next creative thought.
Yeah, and there's an interesting parallel right now with the video game industry, in that video games have also have wildly inflated budgets, and part of it is just because with the cutting edge graphics and stuff, things take longer, but a lot of it is just bureaucratic bloat. They're saying you have to have this, you have to have this, you have to have your DEI and your sensitivity readers and your this and that and the other, and everything just adds and compounds and compounds and compounds and compounds and compounds. And then of course if you go if you have to film longer, you go over budget and all these sorts of things. But in video game world, AAA games, which are the ones that have the $100, $200, $300 million budgets, have all been like live service because they're like, this is the only feasible way we can get our money back is by people having to continually pay for it.
Right.
Yeah.
We can't just sell a ticket.
Microtransactions and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Battle passes,
Whereas
all that,
lower budget stuff and indie stuff has been doing incredibly well because it's very creative. And some of it's more expensive than others, but it's very creative.
There's
and
heart in
it's
it.
very accessible.
It's passionate.
Right? And there's a big community that's supporting these things, that's saying, hey, these are great things. The film community doesn't really have that, right? The average video game enthusiast is very likely to be like, hear about, hey, have you played this great indie game?
Right.
Whereas the most film goers are just like, what's showing at my AMC, which is going to be the big budget stuff.
Right.
So there's
Disney,
not
whatever,
really,
Marvel,
there's not really, so the video game industry has a very robust indie market. And while there are a lot of independent films, in terms of distribution, it's way, way, way harder to go see an indie film than it is to just go on Steam and buy an indie game.
So let's bring this back around. So is Ricochet one of those movies that you would be like, oh, like this is great. I'm glad this was made, and this is like.
I mean, I'm glad it was made. I don't think it was a good movie.
Right.
It was very interesting. It was very out there. It's like nothing I've ever seen before. In some ways, it's like stuff I've seen before, but it was very unique and weird.
Right. It's in that vein. It's like in that field, in that arena, like of more movies that we want to see. Right.
It was bizarre.
It feels like it's very. Like, if it was made right now, it would for sure be like, okay.
Oh,
like,
if it was made right now, it would be absolute trash.
Yeah.
Because it was made in the 90s, that it was so unhinged and just absolutely out there. That was almost like, compared to some of the stuff, more modern stuff we watched, it was a breath of fresh air. We were just sitting there like, intrigued by this really bad movie. It was like watching a very cool demolition derby. Like, just stuff is exploding. You're like, ooh, I'm intrigued by this.
Well, the second that it turns like that unpredictable turn where you're like, oh, these people are like fighting like gladiators in the prison, and then like they get out and then they go to some bar where they're just like little people standing up and serving drinks and giant naked women, and you're just like, this movie could do anything.
Yeah,
I am ready for
it
anything
was definitely a feeling.
to happen
I had
now.
no idea what was going to happen next.
Yeah.
Like, I'm hoping that it's going to resolve with Denzel beating John Lithgow. I don't see a path for him to do that currently, and I really hope it doesn't end on a really bad note.
There really was a point that I thought that it might end on a bad note.
Yeah, I was like, he's losing. He's losing badly. I don't see how he's going to win. And then in the last 10 minutes, he was like, Just done. He's like,
I got a
hey,
plan.
John.
Let me just grab some
I
flares.
know I have some climbing gear
And now
here.
they just like, he's like climbing and he's my leather gloves, the insulated ones. So he
insulated
did
ones.
say that, right?
Yeah.
But it was still like, in 10 minutes, he just like, boom, done, and walked away in the movie. And I'm like, what? It was
How
wild.
good at life do you have to be to specify which gloves, which leather gloves
which
your wife
leather
needs
gloves.
to grab
why,
for you?
Why those? You know what I
It's
mean?
like
Because of the electricity.
next to my driving gloves, you'll find the insulated gloves.
Have anyone seen my driving moccasins?
Where's my insulated gloves?
Well, his plan it
was bonkers. It was just as bonkers as John Lithgow's plan, but he didn't have like
7
Andrew
years to
said,
plan.
he didn't have 7 years to plan. He was just like, okay, I got it, guys.
I think I figured it out,
the plan
yeah.
could have been, I'm going to stand on this side of this building, like the whatever, the media is going to come, and when you see John Lithgow get there, grab him.
Yeah, that would have been the smart
It's all
plan.
over. And then he's like, and then we're going to blow up a building, and I'll jump into a fire chute, and then when I get out, I'm going to climb this tower, and I'll so wait, does he
Electrocute you.
put phones up everywhere and he's speaking through the phones? Is that what he does?
No, I think he's just yelling. Oh, he has like a
No,
megaphone.
Yeah,
because
the
he
PA
tells him
system,
he's like,
right?
you got
Yeah.
the phone working, and he's like modern technology, and like opens it up and flips the little flip phone, and you're like,
the
ooh,
burner, untraceable. Like they weren't trying to trace it as far as we know. Like
It's like, I guess that's what he calls the payphone with. I guess that's the idea. Because then when he's up on the tower, you hear his voice coming from all these different places, and I'm like, did he set up phone? Is that what that's trying to communicate? And why was that a key part of the plan? He's already there. All of Odessa's boys could just grab him.
Right,
Game over. And he's like, nah, I gotta get him up here and
him a
make
little
make
Put
him
them on the
stab me.
police. They need to tackle the police to the ground
I was
so
just
that
like,
this could go down.
But it's clearly because he only had an hour to work on it. If he had 7 years, it would have been much better.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Better production. Yeah, he just reveals himself right after and like says a few things on the PA system, just shows up. Doesn't really use it.
So was it a good movie?
no,
That is the
no.
main
I don't think
question.
it was a good
Was
movie.
it
but it's
actually a good
fun
movie?
It was a movie that I enjoyed watching. I don't think I could say that it was a good movie. Like there's just too much. They just doesn't make sense in the movie. Like I think for the most part, the acting is pretty solid.
That's what I was gonna say. It's
For
like,
the most
what
part,
do we
the
think
acting
about
is
the
solid.
like? So we talked
But
a little
some
bit
of the
about
one-liners are just like the most asinine. I was like, I would say they were written with AI, but they didn't have that in 1991. So someone
It's
had
definitely
to.
not
Someone got
written with
paid money to
AI.
write those lines, and some of them were just abysmal. It was some of the most abysmal one-liners I've ever heard in a movie.
Funny.
dude. Liv
They were
Cal,
funny and
so
how
many
absurd they
so
were,
many
and I can't repeat half
Denzel
of
like
them.
junk like puns.
Yeah.
Like he goes, the only weapon I got left is only good if you're a pretty girl.
Yeah, I was like, a lot of dick jokes. Like,
what the heck, man?
oh man, the best burn in the whole movie when he's explaining about that he got molested by a prostitute. He's like, I was fighting her with every inch of my body, and she's
And
like,
then
I
she
can think of
goes,
several inches that didn't. I'm like,
I
that was
literally
brutal, man. I
dude.
was just like, oh, my heart, that poor man.
She just sitting there like her life is
brutalized him.
falling apart, and then she's like, "Oh, I know what I'm gonna hit him with." She's like, "Wait till he's done talking, and I hit him with this one liner."
Well, that's it. I think that's it. So, if you were in this scenario, like what would you do differently that he did to convince like
Yeah.
somebody that it's actually happening?
I would have talked to my partner who believed him and say, I need you to go investigate this, and I'm just gonna like lay low and try to figure out stuff from my end, rather
then
than like
she can get in
running
trouble.
around and trying to do stuff. Well, he
She
got
can get in
kidnapped. There's
danger.
nothing he can do. First of all, I would have my wife and kids disappear. They're going into a safe house or somewhere.
Oh, your partner is in like the police.
Yeah, the
police
police partner,
Jimmy.
not my wife.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
I'm sending my wife and kids to a safe place where he can't get to them. Like, go stay with your parents, or just like go to a hotel in Bermuda or something. Like, get out of the country, or do something for until I get this resolved. Second, I'm not doing anything rash. I'm sitting down and saying, how can I prove that? Like, I'm going back to the prison escape. I'm investigating that. I'm saying, what can we do? I know he's there. What can I do to prove he's there? He clearly faked his own death. How can I prove that he faked his own death?
Yeah,
So I'm taking a step back and saying, okay,
you go to the source.
He's trying to ruin my life. I need to make sure that I don't play into his plans. Whereas Denzel is just like running around with it like a chicken with his head cut off and runs into every single trap over and over and over again.
And the only thing I guess you could say is that maybe he's still kind of coked out, but
Sure.
My,
The
my
first
thought,
part, yes.
My thought is if I were completely sober-minded, the first thing I would be like, okay, guys, is this really how I would act if I was this person? Would I just all of a sudden be like laying on the side of the road? Like if I've been living this lifestyle, why would I do that now? There's no purpose to me doing it. I promise you it's Lithgow. So let's go look at that body again. We have DNA testing because it's 1991, and we have that at that point.
He was burnt though.
So, I mean, okay. So you look a little harder. You realize that they switched the dental records. I mean, hey,
dang,
we just found out that
like, police department.
So at that point, you are the DEA. You're the DEA.
These were the only dental records we had of them. No copies.
There's no like identifying like marks on like the actual X-rays of any kind or anything like that. It's just a photo.
I know, right?
Between the fact that he's the DEA, which means that he should have some pull still, he should be like, hey guys, like I should be sorry.
Well, he was
DA.
the assistant district attorney.
So like I should be able to find this out if I want to put my head to it. Like I can figure this out. Or the fact that Lithgow literally went into his house and all his daughters and the babysitter saw him. Did he find that out before he saw the VHS?
No, it was only when he saw the VHS.
And the VHS is another thing.
When he came home,
creepiest scene ever.
They came home and the
VHS.
babysitter was like, worst thing you can hear when you come home from a babysitter. She's like, I don't remember what happened.
Yeah.
Man. She's just like zonked out on the couch.
And instantly they're fine. They're just like, that's just Karen or whatever.
Yeah, they run up. They freak out. They run up to the kids' room and the kids are sleeping there. And so like, I guess everything's fine. Like, no, that's still really weird.
Wasn't the power still off too? And it's
no, the power was back on.
Okay, but
I guess the lights were all out.
The VHS part was just clear because he's like, I'm gonna kill your kids, and then it cuts off. And it's like, okay, this is a recording of him being in your house. So why would you jump to the conclusion that he's at the park? Also, just grab the VHS and you're you're good.
Right.
The whole world will come down on this guy, and there's not a problem. So that was another part where I was like, what are you doing? However, he was. It did explain that he was drunk, so he was hungover that morning because he had just been drinking whatever he was drinking like all night long. So
also the panic empty the drawer.
Yeah.
Makes things harder,
great.
dude. Yeah.
So great. I'll worry about this later. Dumps it all out. But yeah, I mean, I would like to think I would act a little bit differently. And then also my plan at the end would have just begin and ended with being like, hey, there he is.
Hey, there he is. Yeah. Get him.
Get him.
Stop him.
Lock him up, boys.
Good on him for figuring out that that's what would draw him out of hiding, because I was also watching, like, why would he come out now? Like, if you kill yourself, like...
Yeah, he's like doing it on the speaker.
Game over, man. Game
Earl
over.
comes up and says, blah, blah, blah. Oh, by the way, look, there's Earl, the guy who's supposed to be dead. And then the whole crowd goes, what? Oh, look, there's Earl, the guy who's supposed to be dead. Get him.
Right. Yeah, I would say, to go back to the acting question... I do think that overall Denzel did a good job. Like, I mean, he's young, he's in a very weird role, but he did fine. Yeah. Other than that, I'm not sure if I can feel that Lithgow is any bit intimidating. Like in every one of the scenes it cuts to, I just think that he's somebody's dad, or he's just like
again,
somebody's
Gary Busey vibes. Like he's not that scary.
He has like a singular. He has like
his face is just kind of like a little. He's a tall dude.
Yeah.
But he looks like a dad.
And the way he talks, he just has a very soft voice, and he's just like, oh, I don't know if I would do that, or maybe I would. And you're just like, all right, like you sound like a fine, perfect. And like, give him an earring and make him talk weird and give him a glass eye.
And give him these really like
earring.
like 12-year-old edgy lines.
Yeah.
Edgy 12-year-old lines.
He just
like, that's the
there's
bag over
so
the head
many
one,
more.
like,
Yeah.
Like half of them absolutely cannot repeat on the show.
And yeah,
and then again, they echo that one. Like he's having the flashback in the hospital bed, and it's just that line. I'm like, that was the line you decided you needed to show us twice. It's not a good line.
And other than the two of them, I don't really recognize any of the actors. I mean, I don't think that any
Ice-T, hello,
Odessa.
Ice-T,
what a name.
How it's right?
Yeah,
they're like, oh, what are we gonna call this gangbanger? Odessa. I was like, okay, and
Odessa,
give him a wig.
Texas.
I'm like, wait, why?
Jimmy's Kevin Pollak, and I mean he was in like A Few Good Men, and like he's had a show for a long time, but he always does like impressions whenever he's in a movie, and so like they get him to do like Columbo, and they get him to do a couple impressions.
Just one thing I don't understand. I just started watching Columbo recently. I love it. Just one thing I don't understand.
All right, so we do something. We do something cool to wrap up our show. I call it cool. Might be categorized as weird. I don't know, but since we have
You've done it already, why don't you?
So Juan will assist us. He will be Liam for us today. So we are going to end with a Mad Lib,
Don't read the title.
courtesy of our special guest, Andrew. So what's going to happen is Juan is going to pick a Mad Lib, and he will tell me the title, and then the title of the Mad Lib, and that'll help me find music to put in the background. And okay.
Okay.
With my big old head.
Okay.
Commence.
You're in the way.
Now I am. I'm gonna do this intentionally.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So go ahead and give him
And be as unhinged
start
as
asking,
Ricochet.
Start asking the questions, and yes, you can. This is as whatever
be
you
R-rated.
like. Fill in the words.
Keep in mind, I've already said that you're a youth pastor.
Yes.
However,
I'm a seminary student.
we trust you.
Okay. Noun.
Noun. Ball.
Ball. Good noun.
Nice way to slide in there.
Person in room.
You don't have to pick a person in the room. This is only like a couple people.
I'm gonna
in the room,
say, you know what? I'm gonna go person from the movie. I'm
you
gonna
go.
say Earl Talbot Blake.
All right.
but- Nice.
Okay. Person in room again.
Person in room again. Okay, same person. Earl Talbot Blake.
It's gonna be like him in conflict with himself. In
Oh
this,
wait,
in
is
this-
it? I
Earl
thought
Talbot Blake
it doesn't have to be the
punched
same.
Earl
All right,
Talbot
put Nick Styles.
Okay.
Okay, this is gonna get interesting.
All right. Adjective.
Beautiful.
I like that. Okay. Noun.
Let me see. Wagon.
Wagon. Nice. Noun.
Another noun. Oh, those are the only two I know.
Person, place, or thing.
We'll say.
You already used ball.
I know I already used ball. I'm gonna use minivan.
It's like a wagon.
Yeah.
All right. Number.
Number. Let's go. 693.
Nice.
Okay. I like that.
A lot. Big number.
Big number. Another noun.
Another noun.
You got it, buddy.
Okay.
Give me a lot of nouns.
We'll just do.
You're really
we'll do-
you're breaking him.
Let
here.
me. I'm gonna look around the room and try to find something. So we'll do LED light strip.
Juan's trying to fit that into a blank here.
I just want to keep giving you really long ones.
Okay. Plural noun.
Plural noun. So that means there's more than one.
like-
Okay.
yeah.
So
Just add-
like
it
multiple
ends in
LED
S.
Many.
LED light strips. I was an English major.
I believe you.
So we'll do rocks.
Nailed it.
Great.
Good one.
Maybe
Part
El
of the
Dorado.
body.
Part of the body. We'll go gunshot knee.
I'm really curious to know how this is going to turn out. I'm perplexed.
This is going to be interesting.
Okay. Another noun.
Another.
You can do it, dude.
All right.
Panics. Just throws up.
All right. Another noun. I got this. I got
Too
this.
much
I got this.
pressure.
We'll go window pane.
P-A-I-N to be specific.
Oh my gosh. How many more do you have left? Juan?
We got quite a few.
got
We
it.
got a lot. We got a lot. It's like the
Verb
SAT.
ing.
Verb ending in ing. So like running. Okay. So I'll do we'll do jumping.
To bring the audience up to speed, the idea is that we will take one of these
Adjective.
many.
Adjective. Let's do we'll do heavenly.
One of these
That's a
Mad
good one.
Libs
That's a
that
good
we're
one.
going to actually turn into a short film, and we'll have to film it and complete it. So
Oh.
we've,
I don't think it can be this one.
it's
Noun.
probably not going to be this one.
Another noun, dude. There's a good few.
It's like
there's
80
5
now.
nines.
It's like-
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Another
five more,
no-
no-
another-
five,
that's
6 more
just a
nouns to
thing.
go.
I just got to think of a thing. I mean, it's so easy. It's just
dude.
a clump of hair.
It just came out. I don't know.
Just a free ball.
Here, all right, give me another noun.
All right. We'll do sock.
Noun.
Oh, boy.
You're joking.
Come on, you can do anything.
It's got to be a anything.
He's got choice
Anything.
paralysis.
All right. We'll do. How about we do asteroid?
Asteroid.
Add a little
Rock, asteroid.
intergalactic.
planetary.
If this somehow works out nicely, then
Okay.
Some of these are actually
and
going
the
to
next
work out
one's
nicely, and then
an
some of them
We'll
are not.
do tire iron.
That's not going to work out nicely unless it's about a brutal murder.
All right, adjective.
Adjective?
Yeah.
Wonderfully.
Wonderful.
No, wonderful.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
That'd be a
Adverb.
Adverb. My bad. Sorry.
Come on, man. English major. Man.
unbelievable.
Look, man, I moved around a lot when I was a kid. My education wasn't the greatest.
another noun.
Another
And
noun?
there's another one after this.
I'm sweating.
Almost done.
Sweat.
Two more. Sweat. There you go. Sweat.
Sweat.
Oh, sweat. Bugging, dude. All right, plural noun.
A plural noun. We'll do ducks.
Ducks. Good one. And that's it, dude.
All right.
That's it?
That wraps it
Oh
up.
my gosh.
All right. So,
nerve-wracking.
without further ado, we will be going through this Mad Lib. And again, the idea is that at one point during the end of all these shows, we will pick one of the crazy Mad Libs at the end of season 2, and we will attempt to make a short film about it. Nathaniel, you let me know when you got the green light, and I will hit you with the music. You just let me know, my friend.
Okay. This one is called A Case of Puppy Love. A telephone monologue to be read by a ball in pajamas. Hi, Earl Talbot Blake. It's me, Nick Stiles. I hope I didn't wake you from a beautiful smiley face sleep. Sure, I know what wagon it is. I have a digital minivan right by my bed. It's 6:93 a.m., but when I sleep over at your house, this is always the time you get up to go to the LED light strip. I can't go to sleep. I haven't even been asleep. I haven't closed my rocks even once. Every time my gunshot knee hits the window pane, I start tossing and jumping. Anthrax. Nothing's the matter. I just have heavenly news, and I have to tell someone. My mom changed her clump of hair and said I can have a puppy provided I feed and sock break it. I want you to go with me to the shelter and pick out an asteroid. I don't care what breed. It can be a cocker tire iron, or a wonderful retriever, or even a German sweat. I'll see you first thing in the morning. Go back to sleep. Try counting ducks.
Wonderful.
That was all over the place, but I have to say, every time my gunshot knee hits the window pane,
man, you
I
didn't
start
know-
tossing and jumping.
Just like Ricochet,
Absolutely
you didn't know what was going to come next.
that was a very.
We look for one or two moments in these Mad Libs to make sense. And that one, it had its one.
It has one
It had its
moment.
one moment.
Every time my gunshot knee hits the window pane, I do start tossing and jumping in pain.
All right. So for once, we actually do have a guest next week planned. In 2 weeks. In 2 weeks from today, which will be date is the 2nd. So May 2nd, we will be going live 8 p.m. with Alan. And we will be watching. One moment. I will pull it up now. He
picked his movie.
It's a Western.
Ooh,
Yeah.
10 to Yuma.
It is
which one?
Rustlers Rap Soda.
Rustler's Rhapsody.
Raps Soda. So
Rustlers
well,
Rhapsody?
Okay, he spelled it RHAPSODY.
Rhapsody.
That's Rhapsody?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm dyslexic.
Rustler's Rhapsody.
So Russ
Is Ice-T in that one too? The
Rhapsody.
rap soda? Rustler's
know.
Rap Soda? Is that Ice-T's Western?
Anyway, so we will be doing that in 2 weeks. So get your cowboy hats on and your pop guns ready, people, because we will be back here live. Thank you so much to our guests. And we will see you all next time.
Bye.